Discover the incredible story of the billionaire bride. Expose secrets, change everything forever. In the quaint town of Maplewood, Sarah's days whipped by in a flurry of coffee cups and heartfelt conversations, with the aroma of fresh pies melded with the laughter of regulars at Bell S Diner. At 25, she was as much a part of the place as the worn stools and checkered floors. Under her mother's watchful eye, she poured every ounce of her being into the diner, believing that hard work would ultimately pay off. Little did she know, her life was about to shift dramatically when she met Jake. Jake was everything Sarah had ever dreamed of. His charming smile practically lit up the diner, making heads turn the moment he walked in. The son of a fast food empire, he was a breath of fresh air amidst the ordinary. Sarah listened, captivated, as he spun tales of galas and luxurious travel. She felt like a character in a fairy tale, living in colorful autumn days where leaves danced joyfully through the air, filling her heart with an exhilarating longing. But every golden moment contained shadow. Sarah's world was rooted in simple joys, community festivals, and heartfelt gatherings, while Jake's luxuries felt foreign, a stark contrast from her humble upbringing. Nonetheless, their connection blossomed like the vibrant fall foliage surrounding them, igniting hope in places Sarah had long thought barren. Then came the bombshell. One fateful afternoon, during a coffee run, Sarah overheard two patrons whispering about the turmoil at the diner. Her heart raced as they spoke of layoffs linked directly to Jake's family business expansion. Panic struck, she found her mother's commitment and sacrifice swirling in a cloud of uncertainty. The diner meant everything to them, serving as a lifeline in a world quick to dismiss those who struggled. As anger mixed with despair, Sarah confronted Jake. His response was layered with defensive charm, only deepening her conflict. She felt trapped, drawn to a kindness she couldn't ignore, yet infuriated by the implications of his wealth. At the next community meeting, she took a deep breath, gathering all the strength she could muster. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach seriously. It makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The room was electric, filled with murmurs and anxious faces as Sarah bravely spoke. My mother, your mothers, your brothers, and sisters, they all worked hard at the diner. And now we're at risk. We can't stay silent as families fall apart. Her words hung thick in the air, echoing with the weight of truth. Jake stood stiffly, watching as Sarah rallied the crowd, realizing his privilege bore a heavy consequence. Every moment felt charged with uncertainty, as the stubborn width of their worlds felt impossible to bridge. Faith and hope surged within Sarah, yet doubt taunted her heart. Could they find common ground amid both love and the looming injustice? As she finished her passionate speech, silence enveloped the crowd, the tension palpable like static before a thunderstorm. She looked at Jake, searching for a flicker of understanding in those striking eyes. Would love overcome the chasm between them, or would the truths they faced pull them apart forever? In the moments that followed, the air hung heavy with an uncertain energy. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, echoing the silence that enveloped the room. She could see the questions in the crowd's eyes, their hopes and doubts mirroring her own. It was a struggle to hold her ground while everything inside her screamed to flee before the truth could upend her life. Jake finally stepped forward, his brow furrowing. Sarah, I didn't know his voice trailed off, choked with a blend of apology and confusion. He had always carried himself with a poise that masked a vulnerability she doubted anyone else saw. Until now, the room held its breath, every eye fixed on them. Sarah felt the heat of his gaze, a mix of concern and something deeper, but doubt clouded her heart. You didn't know? She echoed, her voice steady despite the tremor that threatened to break through. The diner is more than just a business, Jake. It's a family. The murmurs swelled around them as people leaned in, wanting to grasp the gravity of it all. Jake's face transformed, the carefree charm fading as it twisted into a pensive determination. "Let me help," he said, earning a mix of startled reactions. Some were skeptical. Others hoped it was a savior's promise. "You can't fix this with money, Jake." Sarah's voice cracked for the first time, the flutter of emotions spilling over. "This is about community, about people who have sacrificed everything. What good are riches when they come at the expense of the people I love?" With every word she spoke, tears threatened to spill. She felt exposed, raw. Yet there was something cathartic about voicing her pain, something that reminded her of her mother's unwavering courage. The diner had always been a sanctuary, a refuge from the world outside. But now, Jake stared at her, conflicted. "I want to understand your world," he said, stepping closer. "I want to let my family's decisions destroy what you all have built." "Then prove it," she challenged, a spark igniting in her chest. "Help us find a solution. Help me protect the diner." His lips curled into a half-smile, the flicker of hope she had nearly discarded returning. "I will," he said firmly. "Starting now." The crowd responded with a wave of murmurs, uncertainty shifting towards cautious optimism. Hearts began to lift, but Sarah remained grounded in her fears. How could she trust the son of a business mogul who spurred turmoil, even if he claimed to want to help? Hadn't their worlds always been at odds? That night, as she lay in bed, her thoughts revolved around Jake's promise. His touch had felt genuine, a tether to something she desperately wanted to believe in. But reality clawed at her, reminding her of the risks involved. Could she really open her heart to someone who embodied the very system that threatened her family's livelihood? Morning came with the normalcy she craved, but there was a new tension that lingered, hot and electric. She knew that the community meeting was just the beginning of a battle for the diner that would either heal connections or widen the rift between them. But would they succeed? As the sun rose over Maplewood, illuminating her diner's familiar blue facade, Sarah took a deep breath. Change was coming, and with it, the terrifying possibility of loss or love. As she prepared for the day's challenges, one thought swirled in her mind. Could love truly bridge the chasm between two worlds? The answer seemed just out of reach, like a fading echo in the morning light. But the stakes were higher than ever. Would Jake's commitment to Sarah and her community withstand the pressure, or would their bond shatter under the weight of reality? The day unfolded with the sleepy charm of Maplewood, yet Sarah's heart thudded like a racing engine. She arrived at the diner, its familiar bell jingling softly as she stepped inside, but it felt different. The place buzzed with a mix of familiar love and looming dread. A crucial meeting was scheduled for later in the day, and she could feel the weight of anticipation pressing down on everyone. Gina, her ever-supportive friend, was already at the counter, scrubbing down the surface with a raw energy that reflected everyone's anxiety. "Morning, Sarah. You okay?" she asked, concern lacing her voice as she glanced up. "Just a little nervous," Sarah admitted, moving to join her. "It's hard to imagine what is going to happen today." Gina forced a laugh, though her eyes revealed the truth. "You're not alone in this. We all stand behind you even if Jake is in the mix." The latter part of her statement hung in the air, unspoken hesitation coloring the sentiment. "I know," Sarah replied, the uncertainty creeping back in. "But can I really trust him? I mean, he is literally the face of everything we're fighting against." Before Gina could respond, the door swung open, letting in a gust of cool air. Jake walked in, exuding an intensity that gathered all attention. The sun caught the silver in his hair, creating a halo effect that only added to the stunned silence in the diner. A tangible tension filled the space, crackling as the community recognized the complexity of his presence. "Morning, everyone," he called, a bright smile breaking through the unease. It felt forced, like he was trying to punch through the wall of doubt that had risen overnight. The murmurs returned, whispers laced with skepticism and guarded curiosity. Sarah felt heat creeping up her neck as she instinctively stepped back toward the kitchen. "Give me a minute," she whispered to Gina, who nodded, her eyes darting toward Jake. Gathering her thoughts, Sarah decided to face him. Stepping out into the dining area, she felt her pulse quicken. "What are you doing here, Jake?" she asked, tried to keep her tone neutral, but failing to hide the tremor beneath. "I wanted to talk to you," he said, his voice low but earnest. "I know today is pivotal, and I can't just stand on the sidelines. You need to know I'm serious about this. Serious or not, you're still part of the problem." She shot back, crossing her arms, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. "You don't get to just waltz in and play the good guy." His expression flickered, the defiance melting away. "I want to do something tangible. Their SA community fundraiser tonight, and I think we could rally support. If we can show everyone the diner means so much to us, we might just sway them." Sarah looked at him, searching his blue eyes for deceit. "You think a party will fix this?" She replied, incredulous. "We need more than that." "It's a start," he stressed, stepping closer, the intensity emanating between them. "I can leverage my family resources, but it has to begin with you reaching out to the community." Her mind raced. Could this even work? Meanwhile, she caught the sidelong glances from Gina and the other patrons, some listening intently, others squirming. Fear and hope collided within her, webbed together by their shared vulnerability. "I don't know if I can," she admitted, biting her lower lip. "I don't trust easily, Jake. Give me a chance," he pleaded. Genuine desperation etched across his features. Sarah hesitated, the weight of the world pressing on her shoulders. They were at a crossroads, and every decision mattered now more than ever. If she took this leap, would it bind them closer or send everything crashing down? Determination swelled inside her, and for the first time that day, she felt something shift. "Fine," she said finally. "If we're doing this, I need everyone on board, including you." As he smiled, relief spilling over his features, Sarah's heart battled with its instincts. Could she truly open the door to the unknown? Or would this just lead to shattered dreams? The answer felt just a whisper away, waiting to unfold. The diner buzzed with a new energy. As Sarah took her place beside Jake, she felt the eyes of her community on them, scrutinizing every move, every word. It was a heavy reality to carry. "All right, let us do this," she said, forcing a smile that masked her apprehension. "What's our first step?" Jake's posture straightened, a spark igniting in his blue eyes as he launched into a plan. "We need to gather everyone who cares about this place. I know people who can help spread the word. If we could draw a big crowd, the message will be clear. The diner matters. This community matters." Sarah nodded slowly, her mind racing. It was a step, no doubt about it. But could they really pull something together that quickly? And what if they don't come? What if they hate you more than they care about the diner? Jake's expression softened. He stepped closer, the warmth of his presence almost disarming. "Then we make a different plan. But we have to try. You know this diner isn't just a place to eat, it's home. We owe it to everyone to fight for it." His words struck deep. The familiar smell of coffee brewing around them, the chatter of regulars blending into the background, reminded Sarah of everything they could lose. "Okay, I'll help, but I'll be watching you every step of the way." "Fair enough." He relented, a hint of gratitude in his smile. Just then, Gina approached them, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She leaned in, her brow furrowed. "Are you really going to trust him, Sarah? After everything?" "I'm not blind to his past," Sarah replied, glancing toward Jake. "But sometimes, change can come from the most unexpected places." Gina huffed, biting her lip. "Just don't get hurt, okay?" With a rallying cry, Sarah turned to the others in the diner, hands on her hips. "Listen up. There's a fundraiser tonight at the community hall, and we need all your support. This diner is worth fighting for, and we need to show everyone how much we cherish it." The crowd shifted with murmurs of doubt and hope, but there was a spark of excitement that flickered in the room. Jake stepped in beside her, his voice steady yet passionate. "If we can fill that hall, maybe we can convince the town that our traditions should matter." Determination bloomed in Sarah's heart. She was no longer just a bystander. She was fighting for her community. "Let us spread the word. We need everyone a rallying of hearts and voices. As the meeting wound down, they all exchanged glances filled with urgency and optimism. It was the start of something huge, yet Sarah felt a pit of anxiety in her stomach. Could they truly unite? Stepping outside the diner, evening light gleaming in shades of gold, Sarah turned to Jake. I still don't know if I could trust you, but if you keep your part of the bargain, I'll keep mine. Jake met her eyes, a mixture of hope and uncertainty swirling in the air between them. This is our chance, Sarah. That night, as Sarah lay in bed, her mind raced with every possible outcome. What if they succeeded? What if they failed? Questions piled up like unopened letters, each one heavy with potential. In the stillness, her heart ached with a mix of fear and hope. Could they transform the tide standing against them? She felt restless, a sense of change in the air. But what would happen when the truth unraveled at the fundraiser? What secrets lay hidden beneath the foundation of their fight? Morning light trickled through the curtains, illuminating the cluttered surface of Sarah's bedside table. A small alarm clock ticked away, punctuating the stillness. The digger's dust storm from last night's rally continued to swirl in her thoughts. She felt hopeful, yet the shadows of doubt loomed that a quick shower did little to wash away the anxiety. As she stood in front of the mirror, fixing her hair, the reflection looked back determined but uncertain. She whispered to herself, "You can do this," as if her reflection could provide the validation she craved. After a rushed breakfast, Sarah grabbed her keys and headed towards the diner. The familiar route felt different today. The rising sun seemed to herald a change. She parked in front of the diner, a place that had felt like a sanctuary until the turmoil began. When she walked in, the chatter was louder than usual. The regulars seemed to understand this was a pivotal moment. Jake was already there, frantically scribbling notes and swapping ideas with a few supportive faces. The sight of him made her heart pound, doubt whispering insidiously in the back of her mind. "Morning," she greeted, stepping into the huddle they formed. "Sarah." "Just in time," Jake said, glancing up with a mixture of eagerness and nervous energy. "We're fine-tuning the agenda for tonight." His enthusiasm was infectious, pulling her in against her better judgment. "What do you need me to do?" Jake quickly outlined roles for everyone, passing out flyers, reaching out to local businesses for donations, and even preparing a speech. "We need to inspire them," he emphasized. "This isn't just about the diner. It's about our community spirit." Hours passed in a flurry of activity. As they split into smaller groups, Sarah felt her fears starting to dissipate, replaced by adrenaline. She found herself calling friends, neighbors, anyone who might listen. Each conversation built her confidence. Every affirmative response felt like a tiny victory, but there was still a flicker of fear. As evening approached, the diner transformed. Tables in the community hall were decorated with mismatched napkins and small handwritten signs, "Save the diner and we matter." Sarah beamed at the sight, but inside, the uncertainty gnawed at her. Jake caught her eye and approached, sensing her growing apprehension. "What else on your mind?" he asked gently. "I just hope they listen." "It's a lot of pressure," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "They will," he reassured her, his sincerity wrapped in reassurance. "If they feel the passion, they'll come together. Just remember how much this place means to us all." As the crowd began to filter in, excitement fluttered in Sarah's chest. Familiar faces, some wary, others encouraged, filled the hall. It was a mix, a reflection of everything they stood for, a tapestry woven from shared stories and experiences. Finally, the moment came. Sarah stood beside Jake at the podium, the noise dwindling into a hush. Heart racing, she sensed every eye on them. She took a deep breath, and, as she looked around at the gathering, she felt something shift. But just as she began to speak, a figure appeared in the doorway, someone familiar, someone unexpected. It sent a ripple through the audience, and dread washed over her like a cold shower. Caught in the moment, Sarah faltered, the words overshadowed by this new presence. Vulnerability slipped back in, twisting her stomach tight. What did it mean? And how would the crowd react? As the figure stepped further into the room, uncertainty gnawed at her. What secrets were about to be revealed, and how would they shape the fight ahead? The figure lingered at the entrance, their face obscured in the dim light. It was a moment suspended in time. The crowd hushed, breaths held in anticipation. Recognition hit Sarah like a freight train, and her heart sank. It was Mark, her brother, the very one she thought had moved away for good after their last explosive argument. The electric tension in the room was palpable. Mark stepped inside, taking careful strides toward her. His eyes locked onto hers, brimming with emotion and a hint of uncertainty. Whispers flitted through the audience like startled birds. Some looked curious, others caught in their own memories, recalling past family feuds. "Why are you here?" Sarah finally managed, her voice a mix of disbelief and frustration. "I came to see Mark," began, but was quickly drowned out by the murmurs of the crowd. The energy shifted, an unsettling ripple tearing through the atmosphere. It wasn't just Sarah's emotions that were laid bare. Now the entire assembly felt the weight of this unexpected twist. "Everyone, please." Jake's voice cut through the tension, trying to regain control of the moment. The crowd fell silent, eyes shifting from Sarah to Mark, a strange mix of curiosity and concern in the air. "What is happening?" Someone called from the back, the innocence of the question hanging heavily over the room. In that instant, Sarah's mind raced. She felt cornered, her fight crumbling under the pressure of old family wounds. The memories flooded back the arguments, lost trust, and the promise she had made to herself to never look back. Mark's arrival ignited fragments of hope, but also fiery flashes of resentment she thought she had buried. "Listen, everyone," she tried to project, but her voice trembled. "We're here tonight for our community, for the diner. Maybe he's here to help," Jake suggested, eyeing Mark with cautious hope. "Or maybe not," Sarah muttered under her breath, not ready to let her brother's presence sway her emotions. Not now. Not when they were so close to rallying the crowd. "Sarah," Mark stepped closer, sincerity etched into his features. "I know this isn't what you expected, but I couldn't stand by and let this place just disappear. Why should I believe you?" She stepped back slightly, holding onto the podium like a lifeline. "Because I care. I'm messed up, but want to make things right. For us, for this diner," he said, his voice rising with passion, echoing through the hall. There was a shift in the crowd. Faces that were once skeptical began to show flickers of hope. Glances exchanged as people considered what Mark was proposing. The mood in the room started to lift, though Sarah still felt her heartache clawing at her. "How can I trust you? Last time we were together, we didn't even talk for months." Sarah shot back, emotions boiling just beneath the surface. "You walked away when we needed each other the most." "I know, and I'm sorry," Mark replied, voice thick with regret. I underestimated how much this place meant to you, to all of us. Just give me a chance to prove I'm serious." Sarah looked at him, searching for signs of the brother she once loved and trusted. There was a flicker of vulnerability beneath his hardened exterior, a glimmer of the connection they once had. But did she have it in her to open that door again, risking even more pain? The crowd shifted, now focused on this unexpected reunion. They were hanging on their words, some leaning forward as if gathered around a well-lit fire. Sarah felt their anticipation, a collective breath held in suspense. But as she glanced at the faces around her, something stirred deep inside. They needed unity, not division. And yet, could she even begin to accept help from the very person who had abandoned her? One decision. That's all it would take to change everything. With her heart pounding, Sarah took a breath and faced the room, finally addressing the growing curiosity. "Tonight, isn't just about saving the diner. It's about healing for all of us." And as Mark stood beside her, tension crackling in the air, the question loomed larger than ever: would she embrace the chance for healing or let the past tear them apart once more? Mark's gaze held steady, a mixture of vulnerability and determination reflecting back at Sarah. The crowd seemed less an audience now and more a living entity, a collective heartbeat thrumming in unison as they awaited the next move. "Mark," Sarah began, her voice wavering once more, "it's not just about the diner. You have to understand what you left behind. The hurt, the feeling of abandonment." Each word felt like a weight, each syllable a piece of her heart laid bare. "I know, Sarah." His voice broke slightly, resonating with raw honesty that momentarily faltered the hard shell she had built around herself. "You think I wanted to leave? I didn't handle things the right way. I was scared. I thought maybe it was best for both of us to just go. Go." That single word echoed in Sarah's mind, a painful reminder of all those months apart, where silence reigned like a cruel master. She hadn't just lost her brother. She had lost a part of herself in his absence. "Scared? You were my brother. We were supposed to face everything together." The crowd's attention felt like a heavy blanket, suffocating yet oddly comforting in its solidarity. "Look, I didn't come here to make excuses. I came to help, to try and heal what has been broken. Can't we at least try?" There was a desperation in Mark's eyes. Yes, but Sarah might have seen something else, a glimmer of hope, a plea for forgiveness, a wordless promise that they could start anew. As the murmurs from the crowd quieted, Sarah's heart raced. Could she allow this healing? Could she unearth that long-buried love she used to have for him? It felt terrifying, like standing at the edge of a cliff, the abyss below whispering threats of failure and pain. "Okay," she finally said, more to herself than anyone else. "But one be easy. I can't promise you trust overnight." The audience held its breath, the weight of her agreement thick in the air. "I don't need the promise of trust, just a chance." Mark's voice seeped into her resolve, wrapping around it like a lifeline. "Let us figure this out together." The audience, sensing the shift, erupted into whispers of encouragement. Sarah felt the tension ease slightly, yet doubt still gnawed at her. Mark had vowed before, and promises were brittle things. "Let us start with the diner," Sarah suggested, her voice steadying. "What do you propose we do?" Mark straightened, his brow furrowing as he thought. "We can host events, draw the community together. If we show them we're serious, they'll come. We can even get the old team back." Sarah's heart fluttered at the mention of the team faces that had become nostalgic ghosts in her mind. But the damage is done. People are scared. They have given up. They need to see we haven tea. Mark's voice had morphed into a quiet strength. "We can't just talk about change. We have to be change." Slowly, ideas began to flow between them, small sparks flickering into flames as they planned. There was a mix of excitement and uncertainty in the air, both for what lay ahead at the diner and the territory they mapped for their relationship. As they spoke, glances exchanged back and forth amongst the crowd, morphed from skepticism to understanding. With every plan they made, people nodded with renewed hope. Yet, even as they laid their foundation, Sarah felt a shiver of anxiety. What if this hadn't been enough? What if the past haunted them in ways they couldn't foresee? Just as she was about to voice her fears, a loud crash rang out from the back of the room. Heads turned. "Look out!" someone shouted. As the door swung open, powerful gusts of wind sweeping through the space. All eyes shifted to the new figure emerging from the storm outside. Fear and confusion settled over Sarah. But one thing was certain, new challenges laced with tension were about to clash with old wounds, and the night was far from over. "Who are you?" Mark barked, stepping in front of Sarah protectively as she felt her chest constrict, uncertainty gripping her like a vice. The mystery of this new arrival hung heavy between them, a question mark in the middle of a fragile moment intertwined with hope and fear. A figure stepped through the gaping door, silhouetted against flashes of lightning. The crowd's murmurs cascaded into whispers, a ripple of confusion spreading like wildfire. It was a woman, hair wild from the wind, eyes wide and scanning the room with a frantic urgency. "Please," she gasped, breathless, "I need your help." Sarah's heart raced. Fear squeezed her chest as she instinctively clutched at Mark's arm. Without the warmth of their connection, she would felt entirely alone. Mark held his ground, still protective, but his eyes searched the newcomer for answers. "What has happened?" Mark's voice was firm, but there was an underlying thread of concern, a flicker of courage that steadied both him and Sarah. "The creek. It's flooding. You need to come now. The diner is at risk, and so are the families around here." Her voice shook, amplified by the urgency in her eyes. It was a plea that couldn't be ignored. The crowd shifted, an electric charge fizzling through them. Immediate concern began to replace the earlier uncertainty. The diner, once a place of comfort, now had the potential to be a refuge or the epicenter of disaster. Mark turned to Sarah, his expression a mix of determination and trepidation. "We have to go. We can't let anything happen to the diner or the people in this community." "But what about our plans?" Sarah's voice cracked, vulnerability spilling out as if the weight of everything was finally too much to bear. "What if we lose it all again?" "We won tea," he replied, his hand sliding over hers, grounding her. "We'll face this together, just like we're trying to do now." His reassurance felt like a lifeline, but uncertainty still clung to the edges of her hope. Mark called out, rallying the crowd. "Let us move. We need to help protect what's ours. Everyone grab what you can." The crowd surged forward, fueled by urgency, pouring out of the diner into the growing storm. Sarah hesitated, looking back at the dimly lit room they had just begun to reclaim. It felt surreal, knowing it stood on a precipice, just like their relationship. As the rain started to fall in sheets, people began forming chains, moving boxes and supplies hurriedly toward higher ground. The energy of the crowd was infectious, raw determination overtaking fear. Sarah felt a spark igniting within her, the weight of doubt shifting as she watched Mark take charge, leading the way. They raced to the creek. The water churned violently, rising with each passing moment. It seemed like nature itself was reflecting the turmoil they'd barely begun to navigate. "Over here," Mark shouted, directing Sarah to help pull sandbags from a truck, stacking them strategically where the earth began to give way. The rain poured down, soaking them, but Sarah had never felt more alive. She was part of something, a collective heartbeat again, reminding her of community, of family. With each bag they laid, she sensed promise blossoming in the cracks of fear. "Keep it steady," Mark directed another group, sweat mingling with rain as he worked beside her, shoulder to shoulder, reinstating the bond they once shared. But the storm was a formidable opponent. The creek's roar began to drown out the voices, and just as they started to feel a little ahead, a crashing sound echoed in the air. A tree, uprooted by the flood, fell near them, splintering the sound of hope. Everyone froze. Hearts pounded, breath caught in tightening throats. Sarah's stomach dropped. The terror was palpable. "Get back," Mark shouted, urging her and the others to safety as chaos erupted around them. In that moment, standing on the precipice of danger, Sarah realized they had a battle ahead, both against nature and the ghost from the past that still haunted them. As the storm raged on, they clutched tightly to the hope that had begun to take root, yet a question lingered. What would be left when the tempest finally passed? The chaos swirled around Sarah like the tempestuous storm above. Fear gripped her heart as Mark pulled her behind a mound of sandbags, protecting her from the downpour and the looming danger around them. The air was thick with tension, the flickering lightning illuminating their faces, revealing the worry in Mark's eyes. "We need to move," screamed another man from the crowd, pointing frantically towards the tree line, where branches were beginning to snap under the pressure of the winds. "They're coming down. We have to get out of here." But the diner, Sarah's voice trembled as the reality of their home, in all its familiar warmth, teetered on the brink of destruction. Could they save it? Mark gripped her arm tighter, his eyes piercing through the storm. "We can't save the diner if we don't save ourselves. Sarah, we have to go." Another crash echoed behind them, sending a ripple of fear through the crowd. A sense of urgency overtook any lingering doubts. They were in a race against time, and nature was determined to They dashed away from the creek, pulling others with them. Sarah's heart pounded not just from fear, but from the adrenaline of action. In that moment, surrounded by people fighting for their lives, she felt the connections deepen. They weren't just a community now, they were family. "Help!" A small voice cried out to the side. It was a little girl, muddy and trembling, struggling to keep her feet under the rushing rain. Without thinking, Sarah broke from Mark's side and sprinted toward her. "Hold on," Sarah shouted, kneeling down to the girl. "I'm right here." With shaking hands, the child reached for Sarah. "Mommy," she sobbed, and a wave of desperation lanced through Sarah's chest. "Your mommy is okay. We're going to find her." Sarah wrapped her arms around the girl and lifted her off the ground. The child clung tightly, wrapping her small arms around Sarah's neck. Bolting back toward Mark, Sarah felt a renewed surge of strength. "I've got her. Let us go." They barreled through the chaos, dodging debris and frantic voices, all while the rain lashed down like 1,000 icy needles. They rounded the corner of the diner, and it loomed in front of them. The light inside flickered like a heartbeat. A small crowd had gathered there, and Sarah spotted the little girl's mother, frantically looking for her. "Mommy," the girl squealed, her voice breaking the storm's fury as she wriggled free from Sarah's grip and ran into her mother's embrace. As the mother knelt and wrapped her arms around her child, gratitude washed over Sarah. It was a moment of pure clarity amid all the chaos, a shared connection of love and fear, a reminder of what truly mattered. Mark wiped the rain from his face and caught Sarah's eye. The moment was fleeting, but it ignited a spark of determination between them. They had a battle to face together. "Let us get back to work," Mark shouted over the tempest, inspiring others around them. "We still have time to save the diner." With renewed vigor, Sarah joined him. They began to form teams again, this time even more galvanized, fueled by the fervor of protecting the heart of their community. There was something electric in the air. Each act of defiance against the storm stoked the flames of hope burning within her. But just as things started to come together, and they managed to stack more sandbags, the ground beneath them shook. It was a loud, ominous creaking that sent shivers down their spines. "Look out!" Someone shouted, panic rising in the crowd. Sarah turned just in time to see a massive tree crashing toward them, uprooted and careening through the air. The finality of it felt like a punch to the gut. Would they be able to survive both the storm outside and the turmoil within? As the darkness closed in, Sarah would soon discover that the real storm wasn't just the raging winds and flooding creeks. It was the unfolding secrets that would change everything forever. What truths lay buried beneath their shared history, waiting to be unmasked by the very chaos they were fighting? The storm battered Maplewood, its winds howling like angry spirits, and the rain fell with unforgiving fury. Yet inside the chaos, a fire ignited in Sarah's heart. When Mark jumped into action, determination etched across his face, Sarah felt renewed strength swell within her, and relief washed over her like a warm embrace. "We have to get more sandbags," Mark shouted, urgency flashing in his eyes. "Everyone, gather what you can find." As people rallied around him, their energy shifted from fear to fierce resolve. Sarah grabbed another stack, following Mark's lead, her hands trembling but steady on the heavy sacks. She glanced around and saw the community she loved, friends and neighbors on the same mission, working together as if the very essence of hope tethered them all. Each person pushed through their fear, united by the faith that they could save their melting sanctuary. "Let us redo the barrier over there," she pointed, gesturing to a vulnerable spot in the mud. The crowd scrambled into position, forming a human chain, passing sandbags from one to the next, each movement synchronized in a heartbeat. As they shored up the defenses, Sarah felt Mark beside her, their shoulders brushing with every hurried step. That sweet connection forged years ago now pulsed anew, igniting memories of laughter and warmth lost to time. "I think we're holding it," he breathed, catching her eye, revealing the weight of relief amid the rain. The flickering lights from the diner cast a soft glow against the dark backdrop, a beacon of hope amongst the chaos. "But we need to keep going. We can't let up." But just when the tide appeared to turn in their favor, the air thickened with dread. A thunderous crash echoed from behind them. The crowd froze, fear washing over them in waves. Sarah turned just in time to see another massive tree, uprooted and thundering towards the stacked defenses. "Get back!" Mark shouted, throwing himself towards Sarah, pushing her out of the way as splintered wood crashed where they stood moments before. The ground shuddered underfoot, and the torrents of rain fell even harder, drenching them in a frenetic deluge. The cacophony of the storm and their frantic breaths echoed louder than ever. Yet amidst it all, nothing could silence the heart of the community. With adrenaline coursing through them, Sarah rallied everyone. "We've come too far to let this defeat us," she cried, her voice breaking through the chaos. "We fight together. We can't give up on this place." Boosted by her words, the crowd surged, rallying toward the diner, the heart of everything they loved. They worked against the storm, reinforcing their makeshift barriers, forming a circle of unity around their beloved diner. Friends clasped hands, exchanging glances of unsinkable solidarity. An invisible thread wove them closer. With every fleeting moment, the rain began to drop, the storm losing its grip as the sky began softening to pale hues. Mark and Sarah worked side by side, adrenaline still fueling their movements. They fell into a rhythm, weaving their passion and hopes into tangible acts of bravery. Slowly, hope flickered like the lights inside the diner, growing steadier as they pushed through. Then, as they finished the last stack, a collective cheer erupted from their ranks. They had achieved something monumental together. Sarah felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude wash over her, blending seamlessly with the warmth ignited in her chest. She turned, finding Mark's gaze locked on hers, and in that moment, everything flickered into focus. "We did it," he breathed, the relief palpable between them. Each heartbeat seemed to echo the same question. Could they heal the rift that had landed between them all these years? Could they truly reclaim what had been lost? Sarah stepped closer, their shared adrenaline crackling in the humid air, hesitant yet hopeful. "This is just the beginning, Mark. We still have to figure out how to heal everything we've broken." Mark nodded, emotions swelling in his chest. "You're right. I've spent too long running from the fallout. I'm here now, ready to rebuild." She saw the sincerity in his eyes, a promise reborn out of shared trauma and understanding. As they took a step forward, shoulders aligned, they left the shadows of despair behind. The sun broke through the clouds not effortlessly, but with golden beams slicing through the remnants of the stormy chaos. They were unwinding together, a tapestry rewoven from their voices once fractured, echoing the strength of their community now solidified. The people of Maplewood began to filter back towards the diner, an electric anticipation pulsing through the crowd, a moment of realization. They had weathered the storm, both internal and external, and emerged stronger together. "Thank you, everyone," yanked Sarah from her thoughts, the sound erupting from a familiar face. "This diner represents us all. We will protect our home." The crowd erupted in agreement, hearts resonating. Sarah beamed, knowing this fight was more than just about the diner. It was rooted in family, friendships, and the very essence of who they were. Love and resilience intertwined, ready to reclaim their shared world anew. Even as darkness receded into memory, new beginnings sparkled in the distance. In that moment, surrounded by a small army of supporters, Sarah felt pure joy burst forth. Together, they were ready to transform their story into a joyous tapestry of connection. And just as she turned toward Mark, a question echoed in her mind. Are we truly ready to open these paths to healing? In each other's eyes, amid the laughter and light of Maplewood's dawn, they found a cozy certainty profound enough to cradle their unshakable bond. Love and community would guide them home. Now, you have arrived at the turning point in this incredible tale. Don't hesitate. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every click matters. Comment below with your feelings about this ending. Your thoughts deserve a voice. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of backing the channel through these actions.